Hello everyone, welcome to Code Invasion, and in this video I'll teach you how to build a website with Parallax scroll effect. So if you don't know what the Parallax scroll effect is, this is what a website without the Parallax scroll effect looks like. The scroll is bland and it looks normal, I guess. It's not that interesting. However, with the Parallax scroll effect, this is what our website would look like. Very beautiful, and I'll show you a couple examples with some real world projects. So I'll leave the links to this project in the description below. You can see this effect as we scroll. This is what is called the Parallax scroll effect. Another example of this is on this website, and this is very beautiful. You can see that. This is a third example. This bakery website employs it very well right about here. So you see the parallax scroll effect. This effect is what's called the parallax scroll effect. I'm going to teach you how to build this in HTML and CSS only. So if you are impressed and excited, stick around and let's get into it. So before we start building our website, I want us to just quickly analyze what we would need in our HTML so that we won't waste too much time there. So on our website, what we have is a simple div, and it has a background image, and also inside the div we have a heading, this heading right here. That's all for the first part. And for the second part, this is a section with a div container, which we would give the class name content. Now inside that div container we have a heading and a paragraph tag. This is what we repeat throughout the website. It's a simple website. The major aim is to teach you how to apply the parallax scroll effect using CSS. So without much ado, let's get right into the code. So to get started, we'll create a folder on our desktop where our project is going to sit, and to open that folder in VS Code, we simply head to the File tab and we open folder. We'll click on the Open Folder option, select our folder and click Select Folder. VS Code is going to open our project folder for us. Now, I have already gone ahead to download the images we'll be using in this project. However, I'm going to leave the links down in the description below, and I'll teach you how I got these images. The very first thing we'll do is to create our index.html file. So we would create our index.html file, and inside our index.html file we'll generate our boilerplate code. We will then change the title to Parallax website. Good. Like we explained earlier, we'll first of all have a container, a div with a class container, and inside our container we would simply have a div with an image background. So for the first div with an image background, let's give it a class name of image1, and inside our image1 background we would have an h2, which would be the heading, and we'll give it a class name of title. The text is going to be Parallax website. Very simple. Good. Now moving on, let's create our sections. So we'll have a section with a class name section, and inside our section we'll have a div with a class name content, just like that. In our content we are going to have an h2, and let's put the text section 1. After our h2 we'll have a p tag, and we'll generate some random text using the lorem keyword. Now lorem would simply generate some random words, and we'll use lorem 100. Boom, just like that. This is a simple way to generate dummy text for your website. Having done this, we'll simply go ahead to duplicate our code 2 times. To duplicate your code, you first of all select it and holding Shift and Alt key, you press the down arrow key twice. VS Code will automatically duplicate your code. Now we just have to go in there and change a couple things, like the image class. We change it from 1 to 2, and we change the section heading from 1 to 2. We'll do that also for the third div. We change it from image 1 to image 3, and we'll change it from section 1 to section 3. Having done that, that's all we need for our HTML. And let's run our file in the browser using the live server extension. Boom, just like that, we have our file or our website running in the browser. We'll split the screen now between our browser and our text editor, which is VS Code. Now, if you don't know what the live server extension is, it's simply an extension that helps us to see changes to our website live in the browser. If you don't have it installed yet, quickly go to the extensions tab and type live server in the search bar. The very first option is what we are using in this project. Let's head back to our file and let's create our styles.css. It's time to style our HTML. Let's make it look beautiful. Now, in order for our styles.css to be applied to our HTML, we need to link it to the HTML. So to do this, go right beneath your title tag and use the link tag to link your styles.css to your HTML. Now, if you write any styles or any CSS in your styles.css file, it would be reflected in your browser, or it will be affecting your HTML. The very first thing we do to our HTML is to set every default margin and padding to 0. If you look to our web browser on the right, you can see that your website has some default padding or spacing, right? Those are called margins and paddings. So we set the default to 0, and we also set the padding to 0. We also set the box sizing property to border box. Now, if you don't know what the border box or the box sizing property is, it's simply a CSS property that tells the browser how to calculate the width and height of our HTML element. Last thing we do in our universal selector is to set the font family to Verdana. Good. These are default fonts which almost every VS Code has, so you don't need to worry about it. Now, the first thing we do is to set the width of our container to 100 viewport width. Having done that, the viewport width is simply, now viewport is the device the user is using to view your website. Therefore, if you set the width of an element to 100 viewport width, it is going to take 100% of the width of the device the user is using. Now, let's go ahead and style our image 1, image 2, and our image 3 divs. The very first thing we do is to specify the minimum height we want for these images, and the minimum height we would give them is 90 viewport height. Good. Now let's bring in our background images. For our image 1, we would simply set the background image property and use the URL, and you would find our images here. Now, how did we get these images? You can simply go to the site Unsplash. If you don't know what Unsplash is, it's simply a website that gives you free images to use for your project. Now, having gotten here, we'll search for the keyword landscape. And if you would pay close attention, this image right here is what we use in our demo project. this image right here. All right, so you can select a couple of images over here. If you want to download them, you simply click on this button. So once you click on it, the images would be downloaded, and these images are free to use. You can use them on your website. Let's close that. I've downloaded the images we need for this project already, and I'll leave the link in the description just in case you want to use the same images. You don't really have to use the same images, but if you just want to use what I have here, I'll leave the links down in the description for you. All right, good. So we'll bring in our second image for the images 2, the image 2 div, and we'll do the same thing for our image 3 div. We'll simply specify the background image and the URL or the path to the image. Good, just like that. Now if we view our website, we have our images displaying, but the background images are not looking good at the moment. So let's fix that. The very first thing we'll do is, let's go back to this section of our code. We would give it a background position, right? And we want to center our background. Good. So let's look at what that does to our website. So it's in the center of it, right? By default, the images on our background are scaled. So let's define the background size. We use the keyword cover. Boom. There you have it. Then let's also give it a background repeat. We don't want our background images to be repeating, so we set it to no repeat, and would have this beautiful background images. If you look to the bottom of our screen, we have this horizontal scroll bar there, and usually we wouldn't want that in our website. So let's go back to our universal selector and let's give it an overflow X of hidden. That will solve the problem we have down there, and boom, very crisp. Let's move on. Now in our demo project, we centered this text in the middle of the div. So let's go ahead and do that. The class name or the class is title. I'll copy it from the HTML, come right here, and I'll paste it. Good. Now there are different ways you can center an element in a div, or you can center a div. One of the very ways is to use flexbox, but another way is to use the position of absolute along with the transform property. So to do that, we would simply give it a position of absolute, and we would set the top and the right to 50. Let me make that 50%. 50%. Good. Now if you would notice, this is not in the dead center. It's not in the right in the center like that. It's a bit low and has moved to the left. So in order to do that, bring it to the right position, we'll use the transform property and give it a value of translate. The first value is for the x-axis or the horizontal axis, and the second value is to take it up a little bit. So that's why we'll make it a minus, and that will shift it up a little bit, and boom, there we have it. We have our text centered. So we have our background images in the right place. Okay, the reason we can't see the text on the second div is because we forgot to make sure we give these classes right here, those div, a position of relative. It's very important to do this when you are using the absolute property, boom, and there we have it. We see our text where it's supposed to be. If you don't understand CSS positioning, I've got a very simple tutorial on the channel page which you can check out. So let's go on. Let's give it some letter spacing, and letter spacing is simply the space between the characters in a word. So we'll give it 8 pixels, and let's make the text uppercase. So we use the text transform and we'll give it uppercase. Boom, this is starting to look good. It's starting to look good. The very next thing we'll do is to style our sections, and for our sections we'll give it a minimum height of 90 viewport height and center the content using the same technique we used for our background image and the text. So let's bring in our section here, and we'll simply give it a minimum height of 90 viewport height, or let's make that 80. I think 80 would work fine. And don't forget, we'll be using the position and transform properties to center our content. So we have to give our sections a position of relative. Now if we go to our content, we can simply copy the code we wrote for our title up onto the transform property. Oh, sorry, Control C. Now let's come to the content and let's paste it. Let's see the effect. Boom, we have simply centered the text or the div in our section. Beautiful. Let's add a few touches to this particular div, and then we would add our parallax effect. Now for the heading or the H2 in our content, we simply want to give it a margin bottom of 16 pixels, and we'll set the text align property to center. Let's see the effect. Boom, this is the effect. It centers it and it separates the H2 from the P tag. We are almost through, but before we go, this particular first div here, let's give it a height, a minimum height of 120 viewport height, right? So for that particular image, we'll have 120 viewport height, just like this. Boom. So that makes a difference. That makes a difference. So at the moment, we don't have parallax scroll effect yet, and to add the parallax scroll effect, we can simply go to this section of our code, right? Wherever we want to have that parallax scroll effect, or any div we want to have that parallax scroll effect on, we'll simply go there and give it a background attachment property and set the value to fixed. This is what produces or gives us that parallax feel. The default value is scroll, not scroll, right? And so when we set it to fix, we will see that parallax scrolling effect, just like that. So without it, let's see what the site would look like. This is what it would look like: a normal scroll. Everything is pushed up at the same time. However, with it, we have it beautiful, just like that. That makes your scrolling more beautiful. I mean, it gives it another feel, right? So if you are interested in taking your web development skills to the next level, kindly hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. You can also check out if you are interested in taking your web development skills to the next level, kindly hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and you can check out my video on how to build a text with a simple background image, right? That tutorial will teach you more about using CSS backgrounds and the simplicity of it. Now, to sign off, I'm just going to implement a dark mode, or sort of a dark mode section here on some of the sections. To do that, I'll define a new class which will be section dark, and the background color is going to be 282E34 282E34, right? This is dark gray. Now the color is going to simply be, the color of the text is simply going to be DDD. Now, to see the effect of this class, we'll simply copy it over here and put it on some of our sections, particularly the second and the third one. So come here and boom, let's paste it there, and over here as well, let's paste it there. Now we have this cool website. Isn't that beautiful, guys? Let me know what you think about this project in the comments below and what you would like to see next. As always, follow for more value. Happy coding, guys, and I'll see you in the next one.